Hello and good morning. This is for Brittany and also anyone who's curious about how to get Google and Google Docs and Google Scholar to work with Python and several APIs. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the bottom. And what we want to do is we want to take something someone writes in a Google Doc and we want to get the text. Because what we're going to do is we're going to try to check to see if it's plagiarized in a very simple way, not super fancy, but in a super simple way. And then see if there are any sources on Google Scholar that might be useful for the person who's writing the document. So think middle school or high school student writing something, and it's just a way for them to check more than their teachers surveilling them. Okay, so first, let's start with this document. So this is a Google Doc about the history of Mexico, and I lifted this first paragraph from Wikipedia. And the second one I just made up. Okay, so what I did to get this to work, because there's a longer process where you can sign in and get an account with Google and work with Google Docs. The other way to do it, and the way that might be faster for your students, is just to have them publish it to the web. And once it's published to the web, you grab that URL, not this one, but the publish to the URL website, and then you can bring it in. So let's go up to the top, and we added the package Google. Even though it says Google Research, we added the package Google and we added Scholarly. Okay, so let's go to the bottom. First thing we need to do is get the paragraph. So we have get Google Doc text. So let's look for that function. It's going to be this one. And it says, okay, yeah, publish a Google Doc to the web. And this is the URL for that Google Doc that I just showed. So we just put that in there. And then takes this URL and returns text of each paragraph as a string in the list. So I'm adding these print statements so that you can see once we run it how it's working, but you probably wouldn't necessarily want them in the end. You'd want to have a certain interface, etc. Okay, so HTML, so every web page has HTML on it, and inside the HTML is the text. So the HTML is going to be this request.get text URL.text. So we're also importing requests up here. Then we're going to use Beautiful Soup, which you also should import, and that's BS4. It's the 4th version of Beautiful Soup. And so down here we've got Beautiful Cleaner equals Beautiful Soup HTML, and now we add this LXML here to tell it, hey, this is what we want as a format. So we do that, and then we take the clean text. So the clean text, we're going to use this Beautiful Soup object, Beautiful Cleaner, and we're going to do find all P. And in HTML, P is paragraph. So we're going to find all the paragraphs and put them into this list. Okay, so then we've got this paragraph list, which is empty. And then for each item in this clean text, so every time, if I bring back that document, you notice here, there are a couple of hard returns. These are probably going to be paragraphs, and right here too. So this is going to be an empty paragraph, empty paragraph, empty paragraph, and then 3 that are actual paragraphs, although the title, I'm not sure if we'd probably clean it up and make sure it would skip the title for looking for plagiarism. But, you know, anything's possible, I guess. Okay, so then what it's saying is so we've got these clean text, this list of all the different paragraphs, including the empty ones. So here we've got for I in clean text, so for each item in clean text, if the length of I.text is greater than 0, then add it to our list. So basically, if the length of the text in the paragraph is nothing, is 0, then ignore it, is what we're saying. So we're only grabbing the paragraphs in terms of HTML that have text in them. And we're appending them to this paragraph list. Okay, and then we get down here and we do print string paragraph list plus paragraphs identified, the length of the string. So we're saying, hey, we found this many paragraphs that actually have text. And then we're adding that so we know what it's about. And then we're returning the paragraph list. Okay, so let's go back down. Here we go. So we've got this list of paragraphs is going to be the return. So when we ran this, now you'll notice I don't have a URL in here. You would put your own URL in there to get it to work. I just have this set up as the default. So if you want to try it, you could try it and it would default to this Google Doc, the web page for this Google Doc. So this basically says, if there isn't anything passed, use this URL. So you'd add your own right down here and it'll work just fine. So now we have those 3 paragraphs that came back, hopefully. And then we're running this list of possible plagiarized sources. That's going to hold the value that's returned from doccheck, list of paragraphs. So we send our paragraphs to doccheck. So I'm looking for, you know, maybe someone copied and pasted and let's say forgot that they did that. So here we are in the second code block, and this code is inspired by, and some of it is exact to Saleh Al-Khalifa's code found at this website. So thanks to him. So what does doccheck do? Doccheck results by paragraph, for paragraph, in paragraph list, results by paragraph dot append, paragraph, and then check for exact matches paragraph. So this is making a list for each paragraph, and then we're calling the exact matches, check for exact matches function each time we're adding something to this list, and then we're returning the results. So let's look up here at check for exact matches. Again, we've got this backup value, and I grabbed this from Wikipedia. Guillermo Alberto Santiago Lasso Mendoza just became the president of Ecuador, or he's the president-elect rather. So this is our backup sentence or paragraph. And so down here we've got print. So it takes a string, because remember, doccheck breaks it into different by each paragraph and then sends it as a string. So takes a string and returns the exact matches on Google. So checking Google for exact matches with paragraph beginning, and then this is the beginning of the paragraph. So this is the first, this shows the paragraph, the first 0 through 28th character in the string. And if it only has 10 characters, it'll just stop at 10. It won't throw up an error. So that's sort of nice. Okay, so results list, we have an empty list. And then for I in search. And then we are, so the search is coming from here, Google search, import Google search. Okay. And then we are running it on the paragraph. And so what we're doing here with these extra quotes is we want to quote our string. That way Google knows, hey, just look for this exact string, this exact way this is written. And so what we're doing is we're putting a double quote we're putting a double quote inside a single quotes. And then we're adding that to the paragraph. And then we're adding another double quote inside single quotes on the outside. So it's basically quoting whatever's in the string. And then number 5 means bring back up to 5 matches. I mean, because we don't need 66,000. It's going to be in the first 5 or it's not going to be there. And then bring back match the best match first. So you could set this to start at match 10. I'm not sure why you would, but you might want to for some reason. And then stop when you get to match number 5. So this number 5 is number of matches per page. And then this is how many to bring back. So this is, okay, stop when you get to 5. And then pause 2. This has to do with some sort of throttling. So you can't ask, you can't do, 500 Google searches in a second. So this is saying pause for 2 seconds between requests. So that'll slow us down a little bit, but it'll be fine because, we only have 3 paragraphs. And even if a student had 10, we only slow them down by 20 seconds. Okay, and I've got that note for use the quotes so that it works better or that it gets the exact match. So then here we've got results list dot append I. And then, so this is bringing back, so the I represents what's returned based on this. And then it's appending it to the list, and then it's printing the results list. So the length of the list, potential matches found. So it could be up to 5 per paragraph. So then this results list is returned to doc check. And then right here where we had results by paragraph, append the paragraph itself, and then append the check for matches paragraph by paragraph. So now we'll have both because we want to know, okay, well, what's the paragraph, and then what are the matches for that paragraph? We want to keep those together. And then we're returning results by paragraph. So when we come down here, we've got list of possible plagiarized sources. So this ends up being that list where it has the paragraph and then all the possible matches for where someone might have copied text. And then this third one here, list of possible sources, that's going to be the variable that holds our Google Scholar search list of paragraphs. So again, we're taking the list of paragraphs variable that has that list of paragraphs from the Google Doc, and then we're sending that out for Google Scholar search. So let's look for Google Scholar search. Okay, it's right here, Google Scholar search. And so this is doing as a default an empty list. And so it takes a list of paragraphs from a text. And if you want to, I mean, there are other things you can do with Scholarly, that package that we added up here, including you can look up yourself and see what you get back. So I tried this at the beginning when I was tinkering with Scholarly, and I just left it here. So you could put your name here and see what came back. Anyways, so print checking for Google Scholar sources based on program keywords. And then we've got this empty list. That's where we're going to store the results. And then this gets a little complicated, but I think we'll be fine. So it says, if the length of paragraph list is greater than 0, do this. Otherwise, just return this empty list, because maybe it's here or maybe it came back empty. We always want to make sure that, if something comes back with nothing, we can handle it. Okay, so if it's greater than 0, if it has something in it, which we anticipated having, 3 paragraphs, then for paragraph in paragraph list, for para in paragraph list, do these things. So for each of them. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to, for paragraph starting, and then it's going to print out first 28 characters of that paragraph, so we know what it's getting it from. And then here we've got keyword list equals extract keywords from paragraph to paragraph. Because we've got this text, but we might just want to run the search on the 3 top keywords. Now, you might want to run it on the whole paragraph, see what you get. Google Scholar is really good. That might be your best bet. But for this, I wanted to try keyword extraction. So we have this function, extract keywords from paragraph, right here. And so it's getting past a paragraph, and it's getting past max number of key terms equals 3. So you could set this, you could pass your own paragraph, and you could set the max terms for 10 or whatever. I set it for 3 because we probably don't need a bajillion key terms coming back. So it takes a string and outputs the top 3 keywords. And if you get an error when you run this, you probably need to import NLTK and run this nltk.download stop words before you start this. But if you already have NLTK and you've downloaded the entire package, or you've downloaded stop words, then you'll be fine. Okay, so then we're searching for keywords in paragraph beginning, and then again, first 28 characters, so we know what which paragraph we're searching for. And then we've got this R equals rake. So that comes from here, rake NLTK, import rake. And there's a fancier one you can do, which then you import metrics also from rake NLTK, but we're just doing the simple one. Okay, so rake, and then we've got minimum length. So this is number of words. So it's a minimum number of words equals 1. You could set this for 2, and then it would just bring back bigrams. And then maximum length I set for 5. You could set it for 3 or 4, or whatever you wanted, or 2 if you only wanted 2-word keyword searches. So then you do r.extract keywords from text paragraph. Seems pretty straightforward. And then phrase list equals r.ranked phrase, get ranked phrases. So this ranks the phrases as the most salient predicted keywords in your paragraph to the least. So that's why we're getting the top 3 in this phrase list. So then if length phrase list is greater than 0, then print keywords found, and then string phrase keyword, string phrase list. So this turns the phrase list into a string, so we can concatenate it with this keywords found part. Okay, so this doesn't show each keyword individually, it just shows all 3 keywords inside of a list. And then it returns the phrase list with the max key terms. Okay, so remember, we set it for 3, which means it'll bring back the top 3, because the phrase list is going to be really long. It could be really long. It could have 10 in there. It could have 2 in there, but it's probably going to have more than you want. And so when we return phrase list this, since we could put a number here, but that would mean start with the second one, because we start with 0. So if we have nothing there, then it starts with the first one, the 0 one, and it goes until it hits 3 keywords in our case, or you could set that to something else. So that's what we're doing here. We're returning 3. Otherwise, if it's got nothing in it, just return an empty list. Okay, so that's happening. This extract keywords from paragraph is happening for each paragraph. So it brings back those keywords, and then we have a source list. Now this could be 2 functions, and probably should be, but I guess I was tired last night when I did this. So source list equals empty list, And then if the length of keywords right here is greater than 0, should be 3, then for each keyword in the keyword list, then search query equals scholarly.searchpubs keyword. So this is where we're going to Google Scholar. Scholarly.searchpubs, we're passing the keyword, and then we have this equals next search query. I'm not sure why we need to do it like this, but that's how it works. And then that brings us, so this ends up being that whole file. And then we're not going to use all of it. We're just going to grab the bibliography part of it and the URL to access it. So then we're doing source list.append keyword. So we're saying, hey, this keyword has this article associated, and it brings back 1. So has this article associated with it, and this is the URL for that article. And then print based on keyword blah, the following article identified, and then here it is, it's just printing the title of the article. And so notice that here it's appending to source list. So for each paragraph, we have an instance of source list, and then we fill it up. And then at the end of that paragraph, see how this 4 paragraph and everything here is indented? So then at the end, we do sources by keyword by paragraph. That's this right here, which is an empty list, but now we're filling it each time we have a new paragraph. Sources by keyword by paragraph dot append the paragraph first, so we know what it's from, and then we append that source list that we built up for each keyword. Okay, so we run through that. So it runs for every paragraph, it does this, and then at the end, it returns sources by paragraph. And I'm going to pause for a second here. Okay, where were we before I got that phone call? So I think we made it to the bottom, right? So each one of these, the get Google Doc text, that goes and gets the text from the URL, which you put there, and then it stores it in a list of paragraphs. And then the doc checks for plagiarized sources in those lists of paragraphs, and it stores that information in this list. And then Google Scholar Search goes out, takes the list of paragraphs, goes out and looks for a list of possible sources if the students want to cite something, read something, and then use that in their work and cite it. Okay, so then here at the bottom, we're just going to recap everything by showing it all together. So list of full paragraphs, and then that list of paragraphs. And notice you can print the list by itself without strings in it, as long as it's just a list. And then print full list of possible plagiarized sources from Google, and then print that list. And then finally, full list of possible sources from Google Scholar, and then print list of possible sources. So let's run it and see what happens. Again, we'll see what happens down below. Oops. Just getting rid of all these trial ones. There we go. If you hear something in the background, it's my dog. Okay, let's run this, see what happens. Okay, you'll notice checking URL for text, 3 paragraphs identified. It's going to get faster pretty soon. So then in each one, it's checking for exact matches in the paragraph beginning by each of those. Here we go. And it's checking for exact matches. So it found 5 potential matches in the title, found 5 potential matches in that paragraph I grabbed from Wikipedia. And then it found 2 potential matches in the paragraph that I made up at the end. And then it's checking for a Google Scholar for sources. And so then for the title paragraph, it's searching and it finds long history, Mexico, and interesting. Okay. And then based on long history, so that one might not, the long history of old age. Okay, that's not going to be useful. Based on the keyword Mexico, it brings back Mexico from the Olmecs to the Aztecs. Yeah, that could be useful. And then based on interesting, it brings back Siskel and Wiebert, identifying interesting websites. Nah, probably not. Okay, so then it does that. So then we've got the history of written Mexico, the history of Mexico, the written history of Mexico paragraph, the one we grabbed from Wikipedia. And then it's got multiple cultural background society uniquely, termed Mesoamerica. And then based on the uniquely hunter-gatherer societies, probably not. Mesoamerica, the legacy of Mesoamerica, history and culture of a Native American civilization. Maybe that one would be useful. And then growth started slowing, the following article identified. That's probably going to be nothing. And then for the next paragraphs, when I visited Mexico, the keywords are visited Mexico 2 years ago, pilgrims even landed, past buildings, different types, etc. And based on the keyword visited Mexico 2 years ago, 62 years of fighting hunger, personal reflections, and pilgrims and pilgrimage in ancient Greece. So not all of these are hits for sure, but some of them are. So then here we've got the full list of paragraphs. So we've got the interesting, very long history of Mexico, the written history of Mexico spans, blah, 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 all the way across. And then we've got that when I visited Mexico paragraph. Okay. And then the full list of possible plagiarized sources. So the title, it's saying, well, the title is an exact match for these 5 websites. So you could check those out. And then here's the plagiarized one. The written history of Mexico spans more than 3 millennia, blah, blah, blah. It's going to give us that whole paragraph. And then we've got Travel Lingo. Okay. And they might have just grabbed the Wikipedia information. And then we've got WikiZero, history of Mexico. They also might have just grabbed the Wikipedia entry. Zone Alarm, Mexico, that's probably nothing. And then here's a Russian website. I'm not going to click on it. And then Porphyrion. Before, I actually got the Wikipedia page. I'm not sure why it didn't come back this time. And then here are the 2 possible ones for the paragraph I made up. And then finally, possible sources from Google Scholar. So here we've got the title, and it's looking for long history as the keyword, and it's got the long history of old age, and then it's got more information, the publisher, the published year, the author's name, the abstract, so you could get more out of it, and then the link to it. And then Mexico from the Olmecs to the Aztecs, et cetera, et cetera. So as you can see, with just a little bit of code, we went out to a website that's connected to a Google Doc and got the text. We searched the text, and you could, instead of doing the entire paragraph as a quoted exact match, you could look for each sentence if you wanted to, but I just did paragraph. And then we also got possible scholarly works that are associated with each paragraph. Okay, I hope that was useful. I will put this code base down in the comments if you want to try it for yourself and don't want to, write it out as I'm talking about this.